For the founders in the space with style and grace, I'm Brittany Antoinette, host of the Not So CEO talk show and founder of The Idea Girl. From work and wellness to bootstrapping and burnout, we cover all bases on building a brand, whether you're a seasoned vet or you're just getting started. Through guest interviews, water cooler combos, and office hours, we're paving way for a new era of Not So CEOs. So grab your notepad and tune in for unfiltered banter on branding, business, and bullshit. Born and raised in New York City, Cyndi Ramirez-Fulton is the founder and CEO of self-care brand Chillhouse. She's also the first lady of hospitality brand the Garret Group, where her husband is the founding partner. Chillhouse was born when Ramirez-Fulton realized the city didn't offer an aspirational massage place that was affordable. Reflecting on her upbringing as the daughter of an esthetician, Cyndi opened Chillhouse in 2017 in Manhattan's Lower East Side and was immediately remarked as one of the most innovative wellness brands of that time. Chillhouse currently has a flagship in Soho, which offers a suite of spa services. In addition to their physical destination, Chillhouse has a line of products ranging from press-ons to body care. The brand is carried by the likes of Target, Saks, Urban Outfitters, Shopbop, and more. Ramirez has been honored on Create and Cultivate's 100 list, Women's Wear Daily 40 of Tomorrow, Nylon's Inventor of the Year, Guest of a Guest's 20 Hottest CEOs, and has appeared in campaigns with Nike, Fossil, amongst others. Additionally, she has been featured in Vogue, The Drew Barrymore Show, Forbes, CNN, Women's Wear Daily, Arc Digest, and more. She splits her time between Manhattan and Miami with her husband and their kids, Hendrix and Stevie. Thank you so much for being a guest on my podcast.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
I was like, I need to have the Queen of Chill. The Queen of Chill is here, and I'm just so grateful that you're like, yes. I was just like, oh my God, I know Cyndi is super busy.
Of course. No. I'll always make time for you.
I
adore you
so much. I adore you
Wow.
too. It's always loves. I have like a few questions here.
Okay.
So I'm gonna start off with how we met. So you probably don't know this, but well, as you already knew, I was a customer of Chillhouse. I loved Chillhouse down. I remember I used to go to the Lower East Side location, literally my safe haven. And when I mean, I just felt so much better about myself going to Chillhouse. And then when you're in the environment, it's just like, oh my God, I'm a bad bitch. So I absolutely loved it. And then I started working with this client when I was running The Idea Girl. This was back in 2019, I think.
Yeah.
And her name was Brittany. She had this company called Good Body.
Yes.
We first got on a call and she was like, a brand that inspires me the most is Chillhouse. And I was like, oh my God, I just got my manicure from them. Why do we both have the same exact manicure? So we were like, oh, wait.
I remember this story. I think she told me about it.
Yes, we both had like a tier 2 manicure. So we were just like, oh my God, we're meant to work with each other. Then when she finally launched, this is during the pandemic. She won like a mentorship session with you, I think, through Dell. Yep. And then she was like, oh my God, Brittany, Cyndi said that she loves the Good Body brand. And I was just like, oh my God. And then next thing I know, I get an email from you. And I was just like, wait, hold on. This is full circle because
full
I
circle.
am a Chillhouse stan. Like I'm in here every 2 weeks.
And I'm amazed that you never reached out. I mean, we weren't always in need of like, outside designers, but then the pandemic hit and we were scrambling to figure out different ways to monetize. So we came up with this kind of unique sort of digital product. And I was like, I don't even know where to begin with this. Who can help? And somehow you came to mind and that's how it all happened.
And that's how the magic happened. And we created.
And you guys were so great to work with.
Yes. Oh my God, you guys are amazing. So I actually loved your team. Like I still follow all of them till this day. I think it was Hannah and Sarah.
Yeah.
Amazing to work with you guys. Like they handled all of the copy, all of the writing. We handled all of the direction, the design. And it's one of my favorite projects till this day. The Find Your Chill Guide. It was
such a treat. Honestly, the pandemic was so awful for so many reasons, but I always say that it actually forced us to be super creative and it actually gave us the time to take a step back and do things that we normally wouldn't have the time to do because we're always in constant like fight or flight, like like what do we got to do to like make sure that the books are full? Like that was the constant kind of hustle when it came to the physical space. And yeah, with the doors being closed, it's like, what do we do? What do we do now? So it was, definitely a very dark time, but there was a lot of light that came out of it, and a friendship with you
I
being one of
know.
them, and yeah, working with you guys, and that was really cool. Yeah, I always think of it fondly. I really would love to bring back the chill times at some point. I always say that I have
You
to make
literally say this every time I see you. It's gonna come back. We just have to
wait.
speak it into existence.
We do, and it's for me. It's the medium. I don't know what the medium should be. If it's back to editorial, I do feel like there is a bit of a like resurgence happening with editorial and features and kind of behind the scenes type content, which I've always loved because I love being very voyeuristic. So I think that's how I want to kind of bring it back, like just interview format, kind of like taking the same concept that we have at like Target, but bringing it inside people's homes
I
and their
literally was
bathrooms.
thinking the same.
So I'm like, how do you make it different? Right. So that's always my constant struggle. I know there's no such thing as like original content anymore, but yeah, that
But
you
you're
know how I
doing it,
am.
Cindy. Like I
But
literally tell you all the time. I watch everyone. You are probably one of my favorite founders to watch as to where who you see on the camera is the same exact person that you meet in person. So still comedic, still intimate, hilarious. So anytime I see your content, I'm just like, this is really Cindy.
I don't think I'm funny, but that's funny that you
I
think
think
I'm
you're
funny because
funny.
some people say I'm funny, and I'm like, what are you talking about?
I
I
think
think
you're funny
people
people don't
find
ever
me
think they're
funny.
funny.
Well, I don't try to be funny. I'm just like, I think people like think I'm ridiculous. I think that's kind of what it is. Like I
I think
say
it's the Aries
stupid
thing.
shit.
I think it's
Maybe,
the Aries
maybe.
thing. My grandfather's an Aries and he swears he's not funny, but he is the funniest person in the world, but he's dead serious.
I think that's what it is. I'm like, why are you laughing?
He's like, I really mean this. But before we even get into a deep dive of like Chill House, there's so many other things that you do and other ventures you are a part of and things that you've done. Can you share a little history about your background, like where you
yeah,
grew up and what led you to become an entrepreneur?
yeah. I'll try to keep this concise. That it may be hard. So, born and raised New Yorker. I grew up
You
in
love a New York girl.
Queens. Love a New York girl. Grew up in Queens. Moved to the city when I was 17. My mother was basically a single mother from as long as I can remember. So it was like her and I forever, like, kind of trying to live the New York City dream. So I think we both really aspired to live in Manhattan and kind of like leave Queens and like grow up and be in the big city. Um, I didn't really know what I wanted to do or be when I grew up. I happened to fall into modeling and acting at a young age. So I started when I was like 12 and kind of like did a few little acting gigs because I wasn't really like growing tall enough to be an actual model. I wasn't really like, that wasn't a career path for me anymore. So I did a little bit of acting and hosting and things like that for a few years into my 20s. And kind of like at the same time, obviously going to college. So I always had a knack for fashion. I loved fashion. I thought maybe fashion marketing could be a good path for me. So I went to LIM, but you know, I had to make ends meet. So I always had a job. So if I wasn't working as like a model actor, I was bartending or cocktail waitressing. So while also going to school. So it was a lot. It was a lot for like an 18-year-old to kind of balance it all. And try to make it all happen. So I ended up basically dropping out of school because I ended up kind of getting really wrapped up in the nightlife scene. I was working 4 or 5 days a week easily, making some really good money. And I kind of like got like lost in that world a little bit and was dragged into the temptation of nightlife and making some serious cash. So I ended up kind of dropping out of school as a result and and then a couple of years later it was like what am I doing? This is not a path for me. Like I'm kind of like just burning out just in this industry. What am I going to do? So I ended up going back to college, begging them to let me come back, and then eventually again dropped out. So at the end of the day college was not for me, as it turns out, but I ended up kind of staying in this nightlife world for the next several years. At around like age 26, I was kind of like, wow, I have nothing to show for myself career-wise. Like I didn't really have anything good on my resume. I felt like I had to start from scratch. I didn't have much direction, but I always had a knack for entrepreneurship. My mom was an entrepreneur. She was the owner of a couple of like little medi spas in Queens. So I kind of grew up in the spa world. And I would help her here and there. But, you know, it's like working with your mom, it's, you know, always butting heads. She's like the toughest person I know. So we just wouldn't ever agree on anything. So it wasn't, you know, working for her wasn't entirely an option. But I think there was something always in the back of my head that was like, I want to solve the problems that I was trying to solve for my mom, you know, in real life. So basically, a lot happens in between. I ended up getting a job for a startup, basically a startup consultancy. And I was basically the first hire. And I kind of saw what it was like to start a company from the ground up and grow it and hire people and manage people. So I did that for a couple of years. From there, left, tried to get another job, basically had 2 interviews and was like, I am not meant to be anyone's employee. I don't like it. Yeah. So the only reason I even survived the other job was because I felt entrepreneurial in that role. And so I started to realize just the patterns, right? I lack discipline when it comes to authority. And I kind of like to do things on my own. I like to do things, beat of my own drum, right? Like everything has to be at the beat of my own drum. And I start realizing that about myself. So eventually I was like, I think I just want to start something. What makes sense for me and like what I've kind of accomplished so far and like my career thus far. What could I add to the table out there in kind of like a lifestyle capacity? So I asked my husband, I was like, would you be willing to help me launch this influencer agency? And this was like before influencers were a thing. We kind of saw this void in like the event PR world where, you know, there were like a lot of cool people in New York that weren't getting necessarily invited to certain things, but they were like basically like kind of, you know, culture like shakers in their own communities. And we're like, let's invite those people out to these events and like, let's create fun activations around those communities. And so we basically created like a very unique influencer agency. And this was like back in, I want to say like, what year are we in? 2024. This was like 2012 or something like
Wow.
that. Yeah, it was a long time ago. It was like at least 12 years ago. I don't know, maybe a little later, maybe like 2014 or something like that.
Okay.
So yeah, that makes more sense because I think the bars were already open. Like the Garret was open and we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. Lots of businesses happening. So I had that. Adam had opened up his first bar. I was helping him with the bars. And then eventually I was starting to see, you know, how much I missed the actual physical experience of owning a business, right? Like I saw it through Adam. I was like, this feels so nice to like connect with people in real life. Like, what's my next thing? I'm not feeling this agency vibe. It's not for me. It's like a constant hustle of trying to get clients. Like, anyways, we sat on it for a little bit and then it was just kind of this aha moment that it all came like hitting us at once, Adam and I together collectively, because he was like, I want you to do something too. Like, it's your time to shine. Like, what can we do that you create? And yeah, it was kind of this whole, I don't know, hodgepodge of things that made a lot of sense. You know, at the time, New York City felt exhausting for me, for everyone. And, you know, spas were a very luxurious experience or they were a very like low end experience. There was nothing in the middle. It was very obvious that something was missing there. There were a lot of single service businesses out there, such as Heyday, Paintbox, like self-care, but only focused on the one model. And I was like, well, while that may be a good business model, like it's not a place I can frequent. Like I want like a third space. Like I want to create the space that I can go if it's just matcha and get a little work done or catch up with a girlfriend, have a meeting. And then maybe if I'm feeling it, pop in for a massage or a manicure, you know, and create basically a community out of a space that felt like it wasn't a membership model. It wasn't like hooty tooty, like you can't sit here vibes. It was a very welcoming, open space for any and everyone and affordable, right? It wasn't going to break the bank. And, and if you wanted to splurge, cool, we have those options for you too. Um, so that's what was missing. And then, like, honestly, it wasn't even until a little later after we launched that someone was like, isn't your mom an esthetician? I'm like, yeah. They're like, you grew up in the spa world. I'm like, yeah. Oh shit. Like I kind of did just end up taking what I grew up in and making it modern for me. And that's really what it was. I think the whole time growing up, I was just like, I was wishing, I always asked my mom, can you please add manicure services? Like, I want to get manicures here. I was little. I couldn't get like microdermabrasion at like 13. I mean, I did, but you know what I mean? I wanted things that felt more youthful, and she didn't have those services. So I get really frustrated. So of course I had to add manicures to Chill House, and I loved nail art. So of course I had to, make it nail art. And I wanted it to be a creative brand. So of course we need nail art, and massage is like my go-to self-care service of choice. So of course we needed to have massage, and of course it needed to be like affordable. And Adam and I come from a hospitality background. So of course we need to have like a wellness cafe. So that was kind of how it all came together. And yeah, I mean, it did kind of start with like, when it did hit us, it was kind of just a day that we were trying to get like massages. And that's always been the kind of like catalyst. But then when we really took a step back as to how it all formed, it's a deeper than that. It was like what I was meant to do.
Wow. And I just have to ask, for one, your story is amazing. Like, it's just like, to even start an influencer agency at a time when there wasn't even such thing as that, or being able to create kind of like it's what you mentioned, kind of like a hodgepodge, where it's like you notice that there's a problem that exists with nightlife, and finding that medium in between and kind of cultivating communities. And you were able to do the same exact thing with Chill House, but in your own way. But one of my questions I want to ask is, how did you come up with the name Chill House? Because I love it till this day. Like, what made you say Chill House? This is the name.
So I always loved house in a name. Again, kind of that third space concept, creating a sense of comfort and belonging, and giving people that initial sort of like, oh, I kind of get what this is, right? So house, I always wanted to have in the name, or home, something like that. And then I kept kind of thinking about every single possible word that's synonymous with a spa. And it's like serene and relax and like all these things that just took me into like a very clinical blue world. And I was like, I don't want that. And like, what is the cool version of saying relax? That it's chill. So that's how they both came together.
I love it. I love it. So building a brand, of course, requires having a solid understanding of your target audience. How did you identify your target market for Chill House, and how do you continue to resonate with them?
Yeah, great question. I think at the time it wasn't like a super, for specialized kind of like person. I think you always have to have a character in mind, or a few characters in mind when you're building a brand. I think most of it was me at the time. I looked inwards. I was like a young 30 something that constantly feeling burnt out. And I didn't really have a lot of the disposable income to get regular self-care treatments. So what would I want? What level will I feel comfortable spending on my self-care? And that's kind of where we landed on the prices. And I think a lot of, our clientele felt that. They're like, oh, I'm being seen, right? Like someone that understands that I belong, like wellness which should be marketed to me too. I think at the time, wellness was this very, sort of whitewashed industry, coming from like the beginning of phases of like a goop, like that was kind of when you thought of wellness and self-care and really like pampering yourself, you kind of went straight to this visualization of like a very slender blonde white woman, at least for me. And I was like, why am I not feeling marketed to in this world? And how do I make a brand that feels much more inclusive and reminds all sorts of women or folks, anyone, despite, your salary, despite, income, your economic background, any of that you deserve to chill. You deserve these to prioritize yourself. And so price point was always really important to us. And it's been hard. I'm not going to lie, because, we want to obviously retain an amazing team, and we still have people that have been with us for 6 years, and they get raises every year, right? And it's like keeping the price point at a place where we feel like we're passing off the savings to the customer, but we're also taking care of our team. That's been a challenge. And so, but at the end of the day, it's all about the customer and how we started in the foundation, how we keep nurturing that, and how do we evolve it for the next generation. So that's always been something we keep top of mind. Like, now that we're in this evolution of product, how do we take that same, original mission of delivering affordable, attainable self-care moments, right? And that was in the service that was in the service in a service capacity when we first launched, but now it's in a product capacity. So how do we create products that don't feel like cheap in any way, but are affordable? They feel like quality products that you're proud to use, and you feel like, oh wow, like I'm investing in myself, but I'm also not investing a lot, and I feel like there's no guilt attached to it.
I love that because it's definitely true as a customer. I used to feel like spas were places as to where for example, let's take Soho Spa in Jersey. In order for me to actually have a great experience there, I needed to spend anywhere between like 250 and up just starting, versus where you have companies like Chillhouse that meet you in the middle as to where I can get a decent massage for about $88, which is really reasonable. And by the way, if anyone's going to get a massage at Chillhouse, I'm going to say one name, Alicia. You will not be sorry. Please.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
every time I send a friend to Alicia, they text me like, Brittany, Alicia threw me through a wall and I feel amazing. Like, Alicia is
I adore
that
her.
girl. But I
She really
absolutely
is.
love the model. All the team members there, they make it a delightful experience as to where you feel a part of the community, and you guys have even taken those efforts outside of the salon, and being able to cultivate those communities in real life. Like, I've met people through Chill House before. My friends I've gone to Chill House have met people from Chill House before, and it's a lot more than just a salon. Like, it's legit a third space, and you were able to create a third space on your own. It's like, yeah, there's beauty services
Oh, it's
here,
not
there's
on my
self-care
own.
services. Well, no, there's a whole entire team. We're gonna get into that. But one of the things I want to ask is, what are some of the biggest challenges you face when building Chill House, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of touched on it a little bit. I think, you know, I was definitely ambitious in the model at first. I think we ran into so many obstacles because of it. You know, again, I think it was at first when we had, I think it was like $75 or something was our original like pricing for massage, running into a lot of issues trying to hire the right people, all that stuff. So yes, I think quite honestly, it was always kind of a challenge to make that model work. And I think there's a reason that a lot of brands end up doing the single service, because it's very replicable, and it's very like consistent. You kind of know what you're going to get, versus we have like a ton of different types of services at different kind of price points and ranges and all that. So I'd say that was one of the biggest challenges, even from the jump. And we've like just run into so many different little hiccups along the way. When we first launched, we had a very open floor plan. I don't know how early you made it to the LES location, but when we first launched, we had no walls in between services. So you walked
Wow.
in and like there was nothing. And that was crazy for me to think that we could get away with that. The first thing being, we had massage in the back, and we had a cafe in the front with like, coffee grinders and ice machines and like things that made a lot of noise. So we immediately had all these people complaining about the noise, which understandable. Immediately wall went up. And then not far along after that, we had the Department of Health show up, and they were like, we know there's no actual rule for this, but like you have a salon here and a cafe here and no law. We're like, well, there is no law that says you can't do this because we're the first to do it, right? But they didn't like it, so wall had to go up. So like all these things, just like these additional expenses that you don't account for. You know, we didn't raise a ton of money. We raised enough to really just open the door and have a little bit of cash reserves, and that's kind of it. So it was immediately like just running out of money and just constantly trying to figure out ways to, you know, bring in new revenue. And that's kind of how a lot of our partnerships ended up starting. We got a lot of interest from really great brand partners that, you know, we're like, oh, so we can start bringing in some revenue through brand partnerships. Okay, let's go. So we did a lot of really cool events, and that's when kind of the chill times came into play. One of the things I kind of left out of my original story was that I had a blog called Taste of Style at some point. It kind of was like a side hustle that turned out to be kind of a real hustle, but I never made a ton of money from it, but I had a nice foundation of a blog that I'd keep. And that's kind of how I started my like Instagram following, was through that. So anyways, long story short, that's kind of when I had this crossroads moment of like, what do I do with Taste of Style? It kind of no longer feels like it's not connected to Chillhouse in any way. So how do I transition that into maybe something that Chillhouse can take over? So I basically gifted Taste of Style to Chillhouse, and that became the Chill Times. So yeah, we ended up doing a lot of really great partnerships that helped bring some new revenue into the business, because yeah, we were just constantly running out of money. It was pretty rough.
Wow.
And I mean, I can keep going. I can go on and on about all the obstacles. Like I just don't have a whole day to talk about it. That's how long it takes.
I love the transparency here, because people think entrepreneurship is rainbows and butterflies. And it's like, I'm struggling here.
I hope by now they don't. I think it's just I'm transparent, but you still have to keep some stuff close to the chest, because you don't want your team to think that the business is up in flames, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like everything's good. It's not always a fire drill, but sometimes it's a fire drill. But how do you keep people motivated and make sure that they feel secure in their jobs? You know, it's that really that keeps me from saying more. But like one day I'll write a book and I'll share all the fun stories.
We need a book.
The
queen of chill. We need.
Yeah, I mean,
it's in motion.
The saucy book will take some time, but the definitely want to work on something sooner than later.
We love to see it. Well, entrepreneurship, we already know, often takes risks. Can you share a specific moment or a decision that was particularly risky for Chillhouse? How did it pay off?
Oh my God, I'd say product, right?
Mm.
Definitely not the Paris location. That did not pay off. I'm still trying to figure out what that whole experience has taught us, other than like stop letting temptation dangle in front of you and take the bait. But I'd say the biggest risk that ended up being a huge reward was, yeah, Chill Tips. And we launched that. We had that concept in mind before COVID hit or struck. But we kind of fast tracked it, and we actually became serious about it. We're like, okay, this is like either going to make us or break us. You know, you're sitting on a ton of inventory. You don't know if it's going to move. You don't know what's going to happen. And you just got to kind of like say a little Hail Mary and put it out there to the universe. And yeah, I mean, right now it accounts for like 75% of our business.
Wow. Wow. I mean, we love Chill Tips. I mean, honestly, it's crazy because I never thought I would be a press-on girl until I was using Chill Tips, and the amount of compliments that I would get. And plus, you know, it's about self-care, right? Like sometimes I don't have the time to sit down and get a manicure. Pedicure, I'm gonna sit down for, but a manicure, I don't have the time for it.
I will not, mark my words, Brittany, I will not create toe press-on nails. I just can't get behind it. I'm sorry.
I can't either. Like
I can't.
I would rather a fingernail pop off than a toenail pop off.
Yes. Not only that, I do not want to advocate for you not going to get your pedicures.
Right.
You're like bi-monthly pedicures or however long you need. Like pedicures are so important.
I feel so too, especially from a medical sense. I mean, I follow
Totally.
like I follow like these accounts. I think his name is like Nail Dad Studio, and this might just be one of the grossest things ever. But I watch, he does like reaction videos of people that are like getting their feet done after like 20 years and they have like all these ingrowns and stuff. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. I don't know why I watch it, but it's just like, this
Wait,
is
you're not actually seeing things. It's just reaction. You're not seeing the
you're
feet.
seeing the feet. You're seeing like,
oh my God,
literally
how do you
is like,
sit through that?
it's literally like surgery. I get grossed out at a certain point and I'm just like, okay, swipe.
Do
But
you
it's the
watch like
same
Mr.
thing.
Pimple Popper too?
That I cannot
You're
do.
like a masochist.
I cannot watch the pimple popping. Like after a while, it's just like I can watch like the blackhead videos and I'm just like, oh wow, that was a good one that they got.
No,
I
see,
like popping my own. Like, let me date a guy and I am popping every pimple and I'm gonna get every single blackhead. I like to think of it as like me doing surgery.
No.
I'll have my little tweezers, I have my little flashlight on my phone. But
see, I'm weird. Anything that pusses or oozes, I'm out on. And like and like somehow we have facials and we do pedicures, but it all grosses me out. I know it's all human nature,
I get a lot of whiteheads. I don't really get pimples, so I'm always like popping my whiteheads. I know it's not the best.
Your skin looks amazing.
Thank you.
By the way.
Thank you.
Like,
I will honestly
glowing.
and I'm gonna get into your makeup bag a little later too, because your skin is glass like. But I want to ask, as a founder, what do you consider to be your greatest achievement so far, and what lessons have you learned along the way?
Wow, greatest achievement. That's a hard one. I don't know. Like, I feel like I haven't achieved everything I want to yet. I think we're really at that precipice. I just think that, and not to be cheesy, but just I get excited when people like you remind me of what we've built and like have been there from the beginning and have seen it. You know what I mean? Because like now we're introducing the brand to people that have no idea what our story is. You know, they see us on the shelves, they pick it up, they think it's just some random brand that creates press-ons, but there's so much more to our story. And that is something we're looking inwards a lot for, you know, like kind of future sort of brand storytelling, like sharing that story, sharing the struggle, sharing the New York City experience too, because it's a very different thing to be like, no, we're a New York City brand and our DNA rooted here. And there's like history now that is ingrained in us because we're a product of New York and because of, you know, the people that have walked through the doors and have kind of made the brand what it is now. So how do we share that story? So I get really excited and very proud. And I feel like that's the biggest accomplishment, was just what we've done to get to this point, everything we've done to get to this point. We're resilient as fuck. We have haters and I'm like, I'm blinded by, I don't care.
Blinded by the haters.
No, not blinded. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Keeping the blinders on so you can stay focused. Yes.
Blinders on, and just stay laser focused on the future and growing, and just always just realizing just how far we've come. I think that's for sure the biggest accomplishment. So thank you. I always love catching up with you because you are truly one of our biggest cheerleaders, and
you know I'm always
cheerleaders are important.
I'm always going to remind you. I literally just had this conversation with someone else on the podcast. Her name is Priscilla. She's the founder of this company called Saddy Baddies. And I was just telling her, like,
such a cute name.
Saddy Baddies. It's adorable. I'm going to send you their profile. But we were talking, she was like, compliment, like, girl, you're doing this, you're doing that. But to someone like me, it's like, girl, you're not doing enough. But it always feels like that. We are our own worst enemies. So sometimes it feels good to have people reflect the light that you shine back on you. And it's essential. It keeps our nervous system going and keeps us from giving up. Sorry. But I do want to ask, what strategies do you personally use to maintain balance as a wife and mom and a business owner? And how can other entrepreneurs integrate wellness into their daily routines as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like just scheduling everything in, and like also giving yourself grace if you're just not feeling it, you know, not beating yourself up, not comparing yourself to others. I think it's really hard to live a balanced life. It's not always going to be balanced. So you just have to be okay with realizing that, working through it, but always keeping in mind that just injecting a little bit of TLC into your everyday life is like crucial to getting to a more balanced life, if that makes sense. So like, I think when I was at my lowest, you know, my early 30s, where self-care wasn't even like a word that was thrown around, right? It was like, what was even self-care? I would just be constantly in a state of burnout, like drinking too much, indulging too much, maybe not working out enough, and working myself to the bone, and then, you know, doing it all over again. And I didn't know that you can kind of have these rituals. And the nice thing about, I think, social media, even though we're constantly playing the comparison game, is this sort of kind of voyeuristic look into people's rituals and their life, and like being hopefully inspired, being like, wow, okay, so, you know, this person journals and this person like takes their vitamins every day. Like, that doesn't look so hard. Maybe I can do that too. But it's not always realistic. So how do you modify those kind of aspirational goals of wellness and make it for your lifestyle, and make sure that you're doing it in a way where it's not going to like completely dominate your day? Because like, who the hell has time to go get treatments all day long and go to the gym and then also come home and take care of their kids and work and like all this stuff? Like, it's not realistic. And it's definitely something that you just have to give yourself grace if you're not doing it perfectly. So for me, I kind of like I just have like a pretty standard routine down now, Pat, because I know my schedule is kind of like the workload. Like, my main sort of meetings are kind of dead smack in the middle of the week, in the middle of the day, and everything else, I give myself a little time and grace to maybe be a little bit more present with my kids during those, like, you know, like time gaps. Or, you know, schedule in a self-care treatment, or, you know, obviously making it to the gym is something I try to get out of the way early in the day. So it's really about, like, kind of in a way, grinding so much in the middle so that you're giving yourself some time buffer on the ends, if that makes sense. And that's what works for me. You know, that's what really I have found works for me. It has allowed me to really balance out the day in a way where I know what to expect. I'm not super tired, and I think I'm a present mom. You know, I try to be as present as possible. But, you know, realistically also, I mean, mom that does it all, I don't do it all. I have an insanely full-time caretaker. Like, she works really long hours. She's also my cousin, and she's amazing. And she loves the kids like they're her own because she's family. So that's obviously very, very helpful. My mom literally lives in our building. She just moved into our building.
She moved to
like
Miami too?
Oh yeah, she's here. She actually lived down the block, but now she's like in our building.
I love that for you guys.
It's like, we couldn't have asked for a better setup. And we're very realistic. Like, Adam and I, we love to go out, just the two of us. We love date nights. We need that time to recharge. We're business partners. So there's so much, we need to spend a lot of time together because we have to get through a lot of, you know, a lot of things. We're like constantly in meetings with one another. And so because of that, we also need to take that time to just take a step back and like enjoy each other's company and like have, you know, build our own relationship. So that's important to us too. I love being social. I actually, what was I watching the other day? I think I was like listening to like Prof G or something, and someone was on saying how some podcast was talking about socialization and how the people that live the longest are actually the most social. So I'm like, that's gonna be me.
That's gonna be you. Me too.
I want to be like a golden girl, like still like hanging with the ladies, brunching, lunching, doing the things, getting wine in the middle of the day, maybe in Italy, hopefully.
Right. I love that.
You know what I mean? So I look forward to that. And I try to live my life in a way where I can do that now, because you never know what happens tomorrow. So if you're having a streak of happiness, like, lean in. Don't stress out about the future. Just live in that moment and appreciate it and enjoy it. And that's where I'm at right now. Like, I'm very, very happy with our life right now. We have a beautiful setup. We get to live in Miami. It's always sunny. Hendrix is so happy here. And then we get to pop into New York and grind and do the whole thing, in a condensed period of time. So yeah, I don't know if that was an extended answer
No,
to your question.
listen, that was a perfect answer. And I love the fact that you can kind of take that break from New York, because New York is, and this is what we were just talking about earlier, is it can literally do assault on your senses. Like, New York is a very noisy city. It's a very wild city. And we see a lot of crazy shit happen. Like,
it's
just
very stimulating.
Literally on your way to work, on the train, you will literally see, it looks like a TV show. So for those who are not from New York and wants to know what New York is like, just literally go on TikTok and you will see what New York looks like. But in addition to talking about wellness, of course, and how you take care of yourself, you mentioned earlier about in the beginning of launching Chillhouse, you guys got just enough funding to be able to open the doors, keep a little bit of cash in reserve. But we all know that funding in general is a major hurdle for startups. Can you share any tips or insights on securing funding and attracting angel investors for those who are looking to start or grow their business?
Yeah, great question. I will like to say though, for me, it wasn't like super easy by any means, but we did have at least a little bit of a foundation in the people that we went out to, because Adam had already opened up a couple of bars, by the time I opened up Chillhouse, and had some pretty good success there. So we already had a little bit of the trust in some folks to go out and be like, we're starting a new concept. Let us know if you're interested. So it's not going to be easy the first time around, right? If you have no experience, if you're just kind of starting something from scratch, then maybe I think, like, looking back, it's like, I'm not saying I did it all perfectly, but my first business didn't need funding. I think it's like, if you have 2 small businesses under your belt, try to do something that maybe doesn't require funding for your first, unless you have the pedigree, unless you come from like a big unicorn startup that gives you that pedigree that an investor will be like, yes, you've seen the playbook, like, I'll give you $200,000, no problem. If you don't have that pedigree, it's really, really hard. And so for someone like me, I just had to, start my first business, just kind of like it was a bootstrap business. It was an agency. You didn't need to fundraise, right? And then once people start getting to know you, you kind of meet more people, like you kind of get a better sense of how to run a business. I think there's more context there to put on a deck to get people to really trust you with their money. So I feel like, if for young entrepreneurs, again, if you don't have the pedigree, even like an education, if you went to Harvard Business School, like, that is what you're planning on doing. You're leaving there, you're starting your first business, you're trying to raise money. That's kind of like the roadmap for some of those students. But if that's not you, I think there are better ways to start your first business, not raise money. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs will kind of tell you the same thing. It's like, it's really hard in this climate right now to raise money, even as a business that has traction. So that's one thing. So I definitely don't recommend, hey, like, I don't really have much of a background, let me raise money and let me like try to like create a business that I need to raise money on. Like, when people don't really know you, that's really, really hard. But if you want to go for it, getting some good advisors, convincing some really reputable people to join your board, giving them some sweat equity and having them help you fundraise is definitely one way to go about it. Obviously, friends and family, that's how we raise money. Obviously, not everyone has friends that have money, but you'd be surprised. As you get a little older, a lot of people have, $10,000 that they want to invest. And a lot of people actually don't even have those opportunities land in their inbox, and they get really excited and they're flattered when they are approached, because it is really hard to be in, like, I still don't get those opportunities, even like, having been in this game for a little bit. Like, I think I maybe have been privy to a few deals here and there, and I've invested in like one, that's it. But some people have money and they don't know how to where to invest it. Honestly, they're like, I don't want to do the stock market. I think everyone likes to diversify their portfolio too. And like, I think even though startups are really risky, the reward is really high if you invest super, super early. So if it's a really great concept and you have some friends that are interested in investing, like of course, go to them. I think they're the best investors you can possibly start with, not going the VC route, in my opinion.
I love that. Thank you so much for your honesty. Even I got guidance in that. Would you recommend applying to grants maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I think grants 100% apply to all the grants. SBA loans also really supportive. Obviously, government-led agency that, I think as long as I honestly, the only time we've ever got an SBA loan was during COVID. So I don't really know what their benchmarks are like
Yeah.
for new businesses, but, definitely a route, I'd say. Um, and in general, any other loan is going to require some level of traction, lines of
Mm.
credit, all that stuff. So it's a little harder unless you've had some experience under your belt. Someone that would be a great person to interview on this subject is my friends at New York Pilates, because they basically
Mm.
started, they were so bootstrap SBA loans. They own 100% of their business.
Wow.
Fascinating. Yeah. So there are ways to do it, but you have to have a cash flowing business that you show real traction on. And then that's how you're able to secure some of these loans, because banks are really hard to work with too.
True. Very true.
We've approached so many banks. We've tried, and it wasn't until we had product that we were able to secure a line of credit. And even with a line of credit, they can take it away from you when you least expect it. It's also really challenging. So there's no like perfect answer to that. I think it really just depends on the type of business that you're building and your background. And then, yeah, I think really trying to identify great advisors is the key to making those sort of decisions. Because I can go on here and talk about this stuff, but like if I don't know who I'm talking to, I can't help you. Right.
Got it. Got it. In today's competitive landscape, building a strong brand is essential. What advice would you give to entrepreneurs who are looking to create a distinctive brand identity and to stand out in their industry?
Storytelling, why obviously it's so easy. It's the main foundation of any brand, but it really is the strongest thing that you'll have at your disposal. So I hope that everyone that creates a brand now comes from a place of authenticity, although of course there are
Of
lots of
course, yeah.
businesses that don't start that way. So you just have to make it interesting on your own, or make the visuals compelling, or get some really beautiful sort of community kind of show of community happening. But I'd say that's the biggest thing, is just how to make your story super compelling and feel authentic so that it resonates with people that are just like you. And I think we all, if you're building something that feels like it's a white space in the market, then there are so many people out there that will want that product. And yeah, it's just how do you tug at the heartstrings a little bit, right? How do you get them to really rally behind your mission in a way that obviously like makes sense to your product and what you're selling?
Absolutely. I think the key point is what you mentioned here is storytelling and people being able to connect with something. Like we all know that you're trying to sell us something, but what's that little something extra that you can give me that can do what you said, pull at my heartstrings? What are some common
Mm-hmm.
misconceptions about running a business that you've encountered, and how would you debunk them?
Oh yeah, people just assume that we're this like big business and that I have all this money. Like I think people just assume that if you're a business owner, you're successful. And that's not necessarily the case. I personally do a lot of personal partnerships to the point where I've only recently really started taking a salary from Chill House. And, for several
Wow.
years,
Are
I
you
didn't
serious?
make any money. I made all my money from brand partnerships. Yeah.
Wow.
I've had to go, well, the first few years I didn't take anything. And then eventually I did. And even so, sometimes I'll say, okay, I'm only giving myself this much, and I'll keep some, no, I mean, I take a big pay cut.
Wow.
My husband's lucky enough to have very successful bars. So, we're very lucky and fortunate in that we have other things that help us kind of continue our passion projects. But yeah, Chill House is still a kind of a passion project, and will maybe always, no, I'm kidding. It's not going to always remain a passion project. I very much, hope hope to become very successful from it one day. But no, I think that's the misconception. It's like people just assume that like because you have this like business that you're like financially well off all the time, and that's not necessarily the case. You have to actually consistently reinvest into your business, especially if you care for it the way I do. And it's like, it's kind of like, to me, Chill House is kind of like a lottery ticket too, that I have to nurture, and I have to like keep playing the lottery so that one day it really hits. If that makes sense.
Wow. And it's funny because even with the Idea Girl, I didn't give myself a salary for a really long time. So people do have this misconception like, oh, she's rolling in the dough. She's flying, she's doing this, she's doing this. And it's like, it's the opposite, actually. And people don't understand what really goes into creating a business, especially a business that is so mission focused. It mostly only entrepreneurs are going to get that. But lastly, what's one piece of advice you wish someone would have given you when you were first starting off as an entrepreneur?
So we didn't go by any playbook. I've said the word playbook a lot now, just because being on a different side of where I started, I'm seeing things a little bit more clearly now. You start understanding why brands do certain things and why businesses have certain models and that kind of thing. We never had that. And I'm really glad we didn't, but obviously having had some level of playbook would have been really helpful for me, so that I wasn't constantly running into like stressful, moments where I was forced to make, big decisions and that kind of thing. Like that's what I wish there were, some version of a playbook for any industry, and that people had access to it, because that way we would probably avoid a few more mistakes. We would avoid some mistakes along the way if we had some level of playbook. But again, it's like you need a combination of playbook means just kind of building from your gut, because if you just follow the playbook, then your brand's going to feel robotic and like copy paste. But if you just go with your gut, that could be very destructive too. You don't know what you don't know, right? So it's the combination is super, super important. I just wish I would have had some playbook at my disposal that I could refer to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like one piece of advice. I think it's more just like, I wish there was something out there that entrepreneurs, maybe there is. I mean, I don't know if Business Class does some version of this with Sophia Moroso's business, but I think that's like what's so necessary for people to feel confident in their decisions.
Thank you for that. Actually, I lied. My last question is, what's in your makeup bag and what's on your shelfie? So if you can just share like maybe some skincare products, maybe your favorite makeup products at the moment, and just little reason as to why, these are your faves.
Yeah. Well, I'm constantly switching things up. But right now I really like the Outset for my serum. So I've been using that.
Is that
It's
Scarlett
like a firming
Johansson's?
collagen serum.
That's Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, their
brand, right?
products are really good.
Really?
I'm very, very impressed. Yes. Yeah, they're the real deal. And I've been using their eye serum for my skincare. I've been using Nude Sticks as my SPF. They have a really nice SPF moisturizer. I've been washing every day. And then for my makeup, what am I doing for my makeup? I kind of mix it up. I have my Fenty foundation. And then I also have been using Makeup by Mario's concealer. So I always kind of like mix up my foundations. I don't know. I'm a weirdo. I can't just stick to one thing. So I do like a little bit of everything. And then blush, I've been using Westman Atelier. They have like a multi-stick. So that's what I'm wearing right now on my cheek. And I have a couple of colors that I really like. Lip, I've been using Violet France. This is my first time using this, so I'm not going to talk about this because it's a very unique color for me. But for like my everyday lipstick, I use Violet France. Do you know Violet France?
I haven't heard. It
Yeah,
sounds
she's like
familiar
this
though.
French makeup artist that started her own line, and she just does like really nice, chic kind of French girl makeup really well with like beautiful like color stories and that kind of thing. But she has like a sheer lipstick, almost feel like looks like it's like a light tint. But that's
Mm.
Bijou Balm or something like that. I use that, and then I'll throw in like and gloss on top. I've also been really loving Milk Makeup's like little like jelly thing. What do
Oh
they call it?
yes, like the little
It's like what?
blush jelly
Yeah, the
sticks.
cooling jelly stick. It's really fun. I use it on my cheeks and my lips all the time.
Ooh, I love a multi-use
Me
product. I
too.
I have to give them a try. Milk Makeup is a really great brand. I love their mascara. I love their contour sticks, but I haven't given the blush a try.
Oh, I think
I'm
that's
gonna
my
give it up.
favorite.
I
Yeah.
love the fact that I can like blush and write on my lips. I love
Just so
that.
easy to keep in your bag, you know? You're like, and I love your lipstick right now. This is like
Thank
your whole makeup right
you.
now is like what I want to do for myself every day.
Thank
What are you
you.
wearing?
This is oh my gosh. So it's actually I think I have it right here. So it's this brand called is it called Skin Glass? Skin Glass by North
Oh.
Face. Skin Glass by North Face. And this pencil is actually Sephora. I swear on everything, Sephora has the best lip liners. Like the
Oh,
Sephora
wow.
collection brand. I think I want to say that the number is 12. I'll message you
That's
and let you know which one it
beautiful.
is. But it is,
Okay.
I literally only wear two. This one and molasses, and you can literally create any single color that you want. I'm not a fan of
Perfect.
like, as you get older, it's like consumption and whatnot.
Yeah,
You don't want things to take up too much space. And plus I end up just using the same things over and over again. So it's just like, okay.
totally.
So what are you currently working on and how can we support you?
What am I personally working on or Chill House?
In general, we just want to be able to support. So whatever
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
projects you have up your sleeve, like let us know.
Thank you. Nothing that's coming out right now that I can talk about, but we are working towards a very important nail product, I'd say, for end of year, early next year. Something
Ooh.
that will definitely be on the shelves in the Manny room. Um,
Ooh.
hint, hint. And yeah, so we're excited. There's going to be a lot more innovation coming up very soon. Also working on a little bit of a brand refresh, which
Ooh,
will
I
be
can't
really
wait to
fun.
see this because I love your brand
Yeah,
already. So it's like,
thank
what
you.
else are you
Yeah, we
going to
just went
do?
back. We're talking to our original brand team because obviously like want they understand it because they built it. And yeah, I just feel like there's like a new iteration of Chill House that's gonna come soon. And you'll see it. It'll feel just as like familiar, but it'll allow us to be a little bolder, I'd say, because right now what we're running into, we're a design, we're a creative brand. We have a ton of designs. We want to go even bolder at times if we want to, and simpler at times if we want to. And we don't want our brand to really get in the way of that, if that makes sense. You know
Got
what I mean?
it. Got it. I totally get that. So
Yeah.
lastly, we're gonna do a quick spit round where I'm gonna ask you like kind of and or questions like yellow or green, red or pink, and essentially you have to
Okay.
answer it in 60 seconds. So I'm gonna start the clock now. Go.
Oh my
Beyonce or
gosh.
Rihanna?
Rihanna.
Matcha or coffee?
Right now, coffee.
Gua sha or facial globes?
Washa.
90s or 2000s?
Ooh. 90s.
Kitten Hills or platforms?
Platforms.
Miami or New York City?
New York.
Spotify or Apple Music?
Spotify.
Sound healing or Reiki?
Sound healing.
Massage or facial?
Massage.
Sparkling water or still?
Still.
Romantic getaway or family vacation?
Romantic getaway.
Clueless or Mean Girls?
Oh, God. Clueless.
Dad cap or bucket hat?
Dad cat.
Mini bag or tote bag?
Mini.
And time. And the last one was gel mani or press-ons.
Press-ons all day.
Press-ons. Oh my gosh. Cyndi, thank you so much. If you can just really quickly tell our listeners where they can find you on the internet, in the internet streets. Where should they follow?
Yeah, of course. At Cyndi Ramirez. My name is Cyndi, so inverted C and Y, named after Cyndi Lauper, actually. And at Chillhouse, how it's spelt and sounds.
Amazing, Cyndi. Thank you so much for your time. You dropped so many gems, and I know our listeners are going to just hone in on everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You were awesome.
Thank you, babe.
Thanks for tuning in to the Not So CEO Talk Show. If you love what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. To stay in the loop, stack our newsletter, The Paper, and follow us on social media at Not So CEO. In case you need assistance with building your brand, or you're a creative wanting to go from freelancer to founder, book an office hour session with me on our website at notsoceo.co. Until next time, remember, being self-made shouldn't compromise self-care. This is Not So CEO, signing off.